Near to Kirby Stephen lies the village of Hartley, and here can be found Hartley Quarry. It was known to have a cave in it, but this was assumed to have been quarried away years ago. A local geologist found this was not the case, and along with permission from CMEX for weekend visitations due to an active lime plant during the week, exploration began. On entering the cave, the passage almost immediately branches left and right. We will take the left-hand branch first. Walking along the passage, there is a sharp right-hand bend down dip, and this section of the cave was originally a sump and had stopped the explorers in 1991. I suspect that the lowering of the quarry floor on the outside has since allowed it to drain. A long pool, which possibly now only sumps in very wet weather, takes you through to a section of mud, the consistency of copper slip grease, and an enlarging of the cave passage. There are just a few speleothems to be found in the cave, and only one of any size. This is probably mainly down to the fact that the cave has formed phreatically, and there are few inlets. You can, however, see from the images the classic solution pockets from such cave formation. Carrying on through the cave, a chamber is reached, where a sharp turn left again takes you further down dip. Note here how all the walls are covered in an earthy brown mud. Just beyond this point a sump is reached, which drains through to a smaller passage in the right hand wall, which we have yet to explore. The sump is where for most of us the main cave ends, but with Dave now on board, exploration could continue.
Sump's 25 metres long.
Yep.
Surface is in, well, kind of an air belt, but I suspect it's just the bottom of a boulder choke.
Yeah.
There's a very low way on to the left, well, sort of straight on, slightly left, but too small to get through. And then you can look up through boulders. It appears it goes up a good way, probably could see up 3 or 4 metres. You could probably drop the boulders, to be honest. The only thing is, of course, you're at the bottom of them.
Yeah.
And there's the danger of rumbling down into the sump. So it kind of goes in from here, bears right a bit, and then a bit more, and then the final length of line is on 150 degrees. So, but it's bang on the 25 metre tank. So sump's 25 metres. Well, actually, 20 metres long because we're a 5 metre tank there. So, it's generally pretty open. You hit an elbow and start to come up, and the elbow is the smallest bit, which isn't tight, but you do kind of just wriggle through. But the rest of it's pretty roomy. This was generally shit, it must be muddy ceiling, so it was just raining down on me. But where I could get ahead of it, it was nice and clear.
And how deep was it in the elbow?
Without interrogating this, which you can't do with the gloves with. I'll tell you, not a lot, probably 5 metres at most, I would say.
5 metres.
But I'll be able to tell. I just couldn't see anything on the way back. I got a bearing when I set off back, but then I just couldn't see to survey on the way back. But it does a definite, coming back, it does a definite right and then a little right again. So we'll look at what 150 degrees is compared to this passage.
Yeah. That's cool. It might be we can bypass into that choke. This choke.
Yeah, it's
20 metres isn't far, is it?
No, I mean this air belt, I could get that high out the water, and it's quite big, probably as big as this area here. Yeah. But bouldering, you're definitely at the base of a sort of hopper of boulders.
Right.
Why don't I take this mask off? And then sound quite so stupid.
Oh, I can see you now. You've been blinding me camera all the time. Yeah. Can you just go through all that again? Before returning to the entrance to then explore the right-hand passage, we will take a quick look at a model of the cave that I have produced from our survey notes. And of course the obligatory muddy cavers. The right-hand branch of the cave was first explored in 1991. Although smaller than the left-hand branch, it does have a couple of chambers. A squeeze through a boulder choke is required to get you into the second of these. A flat-out crawl off the right-hand side of the second chamber brings you to a steeply descending passage which ends in a sump. In September, Dave completed a dive and reported back on what he had found.
Empty lolly reel.
Yeah, well.
You want to put your light out? Nice on. Perfect.
Well,
Come on, so then, what you got? Start with the sump if you like.
I don't know how long it is. We'll just have to look at the next tag.
Okay.
I can't imagine it's more than about 6 or 7 metres long.
Right.
Slight right hand curve to it because the line's pulled into that side, but not much. Surfaces in a sort of hands and knees. Hang on, let me take this off. I can talk properly then.
Sounds more authentic when you have the mask on.
Surfaces in a hands and knees crawl, bearing of 330 degrees, which I followed for about maybe 10 metres. Then there's a side passage going up at about 45 degrees, again sort of hands and knees size, which I went up. So it's going up at 45 degrees on that side. Followed it up for about, I'd say 4 or 5 metres, where it intersects a cross rift. There's a lot of mud up there, and there's some loose boulders, so you can see spaces up, but I didn't press it. Back down the main passage. Carried on through 330 degrees, goes through a duck, which was a sort of harness and helmet off kind of duck. Carries on again for about another probably 15-20 metres, and then starts to go downhill reasonably steeply. Not quite as steep as this, but not too far off. And ends at, it looks like a sump, but it's got like a big sort of nodger sticking down, which a good belt with a sledgehammer would bring off in no time. I couldn't get past this nodger, and I couldn't boot it off, but I could get my feet into the sump, and I could feel airspace immediately, so I'm not even sure if it's a sump, it might just be another duck. But the passage takes a definite downhill trend, just like this one. Similar dimensions as well. So I'd say 50 metres of passage,
Wow.
all told.
Fantastic.
So when I went up the 45 degree side passage to that side, I had a good old shout at the top. So
is there any sign of a stream coming in that rift, cross rift?
no,
Right. So it's not the same cross rift that the other side by the other side.
no, I wouldn't have thought so. It's very dry. It looks like it's water that's flooded up. So if anything, this is a downstream sump. It's static. There's pools in it, but as I was disturbing the pools, they were running off downhill into this other sump or duck or whatever it is.
So could you drain that when you're in?
Drain this one.
Yeah.
You'd have to take quite a lot of piping.
Right.
So yes, you could.
It's still worth pursuing that on a cross rift then, because it doesn't go back into there.
Yeah, possibly. There's no real sign. Oh, there's more of that copper slip grease as well. You know, that sort of pink mud.
Yeah.
There's a patch of that as well. And in this sort of 45 degree ascending passage, there's all these little white blobs, which looked a bit like they might be, I don't know, some sort of bacteria, or maybe this organic stuff gets washed in. So it's sort of soft mud, you know, when it gets deposited, it gets that kind of velvet sort of surface. And all these little white things on top of it.
Right.
So there you go. So yeah, go back in with a hammer. I reckon I could knock this thing off. It'd be the world's most perfect belay for the sump actually. It's a shame to knock it off, and it just hangs down here. So I couldn't get round it or under it. But other than that, you'd be straight in. But as I say, I managed to get my legs in, and I could feel my legs wafting about in air. So I couldn't get my head close enough to see if there was an airspace through. But
So it's either a duct or a sump, or maybe it's a proper sump and it's just got a bit of a, you know, bit of a rise before it descends again. But the passage at that point is trending downhill fairly steeply. So I reckon the end point is probably at least 5 metres lower than here. So it's going downhill.
Yeah.
Which is handy because that's where the resurgence is.
Yeah. So yeah, interesting that passage. Right, can I get out now?
You can get out now.
Right,